Hello everyone, astrokit here. Welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, welcome. Today we're talking about how you act like your sidereal sign. In today's mainstream society, tropical astrology is the main system that people recognize and the main system people go by. When people ask you, what's your sign? You say, I'm a Leo, I'm a Cancer, which is usually what your tropical sign is. But a lot of you guys do know, if you're watching this video now, that you have a sidereal chart, which is a different form of astrology. It's still astrology, but it's not used in a mainstream way. So if people ask you what's your sign, most people would not say their sidereal sign. However, that's why I'm making this video, to talk about how you align with the traits of your sidereal sign if you do happen to calculate your chart and see that your sun sign, your rising sign, switches signs when you switch systems. So in the sidereal system, it is 23 degrees behind the tropical system. So most people do switch signs when they switch their chart. Cancer goes from being a Cancer in tropical to being a Gemini in sidereal. Leo goes to being a Cancer in sidereal, etc., etc. And if you're watching this video, you've probably already calculated your sidereal chart. And I'm glad you're here because we can discuss this topic of what we see when people act, behave, what they do with their life. And observing them from the outside perspective, we can see, okay, you're acting like your sidereal sign more than your tropical sign. So we're bringing more light to this topic of how people act like their sidereal signs. And I'm bringing my own knowledge into this video and observations of like, when I see people act like their sidereal signs, celebrities, people that I know, etc. One caveat of this video is that with the 23-degree difference shift, some of you guys are already late degrees in the tropical system. So if you have 28 degrees as your sun sign, that means you remain that same sign in sidereal because you're subtracting 23 degrees, remember, but if you're 28 degrees Libra, you're still going to be a Libra in the sidereal system. So most people switch signs once they go to sidereal, which is caused a lot of controversial topics and discussions and debates of like which sign you really are. But some of you guys are lucky enough to where you're the same in both systems, but it's more rare. And if you have not calculated your sidereal chart yet, I'll leave the calculator down below so you can get a good idea of what your big three is, and you can watch this video for the timestamps of your big three to get a better understanding of how your sidereal signs and traits manifest in you and your personality and lifestyle. And I also have a popular video on my channel about your physical appearance and your zodiac sign, but I would recommend a lot of you guys can now watch that video for your sidereal sign. I made that video a while ago and most people have watched it for their tropical sign, but maybe you want to watch it now and see, hey, maybe I have the physical appearance of Gemini, but now I'm a sidereal Taurus and I want to see if I align with those physical traits instead. I'll link that video down below. And the current video I have up on Patreon now is all about your husband, your future spouse, and your Jupiter sign. We're talking about how Jupiter is your husband, Mars is your boyfriend, and getting into what your future spouse will be like based on your Jupiter sign. And that is a Patreon exclusive. I'll link it down below for you guys. So Aries, a lot of Aries in tropical astrology end up being Pisces once they switch to sidereal. Now, how we see this manifest is that these sidereal Pisces people watching this, you guys are very spiritual. You're interested in manifestation, interested in law of attraction. In fact, a lot of books that I've read who had authors that are sidereal Pisces write books about how to manifest, law of attraction. And I've noticed throughout history and just kind of observing people that have been pivotal in the spiritual world and the astrology world and the manifestation world, a lot of them are tropical Aries but end up being sidereal Pisces. And I think this ties back to this Jupiter rulership that sidereal Pisces have, Jupiter being about this theme of spirituality, knowledge within spirituality, giving knowledge, being a teacher. And a lot of tropical Aries align with that energy of teaching people things, guiding people, being these gurus within spiritual communities. That has to do with astrology, that has to do with manifestation. Pisces is known as the most spiritual sign. It's connected to the 12th house. That is the sign that is directly representative of religion, of spirituality. And you'll see that a lot of sidereal Pisces align with that energy. And something else I've noticed with the personality of sidereal Pisces is that they are loners. They like doing things by themselves. They're the kind of people that are in their own bubble, in their own world, which I believe is really connected to the 12th house, which is the house of isolation, the house that is connected to the sign of Pisces. So these natives tend to embody this 12th house Piscean energy, where they are aloof, they are hard to reach, they're always here and there and nowhere at the same time. They're hard to grasp energetically, and literally they're hard to get a hold of. And a lot of times if you are a sidereal Pisces, you might find it hard to connect to the average person, to the normal world, which is why they end up being teachers and leaders and gurus, because they're in this position where they have a lot of knowledge and wisdom to give to others, but they can't necessarily relate to them directly or feel like they click with anyone just so easily. It's more of a guiding position that they're in. And this leads them to this position where they are loners, they like to isolate a lot, being their own world, they are dreamers, and they're aligning with this energy that relates more to Pisces subconsciously than it does to that archetype of Aries. Now, some other things that I've noticed in their lifestyle is that they travel a lot, which goes back to that Jupiter rulership. Also, the 12th house rules foreign lands. So this Jupiter rulership representing travel, they like to go different places, especially if you notice in the lives of older people that are sidereal Pisces, they've traveled a lot in their lifetime throughout their 20s and 30s. This is something that they love doing and going different places. And this goes back to their sidereal Jupiter rulership. And one word I think that can describe them is that they are worldly. They've been to a lot of places, had a lot of experiences, hence going back to their maybe even life purpose of being a guide or teacher. Guides or teachers have a lot of knowledge because they've done a lot of things, lived a lot of lives, and that is what Jupiter is all about. And I wanted to touch a little bit on the physical appearance of tropical Aries. Tropical Aries, a lot of them do look very fish-like. They have these cute sort of pouty faces. Their mouth is like sort of pouty. They might have big lips, wide set eyes. And I recommend a lot of you guys can watch the physical appearance video on my channel for your sidereal sign. So watch it for Pisces instead of Aries. If you are a sidereal Pisces watching this, I'll link that video down below so you guys can see it, but you might relate to this energy of looking more like a Pisces, where you look fish-like. And a lot of sidereal Pisces I've seen, they have very smooth skin. It looks like they have a filter on. They're very beautiful people, but they have like this otherworldly glow about them, and they're very fresh-faced and fish-looking and smooth-skinned, and I feel like they look a lot more like Pisces once you think about it. So you can tell us down below your experience with this shift of signs between Aries and Pisces, if you relate to it, if you don't relate to it. And right now the video on Patreon is about how your Jupiter sign represents your husband and what your future spouse is going to be like based on your Jupiter sign. So if you guys are interested in that topic, link down below on Patreon. A lot of Taurus end up being sidereal Aries once they switch systems. Now, how this manifests in their personality is that they align with this energy of being more Martian ruled, since Mars rules Aries. And a lot of Taurus stereotypically can be fiery, confrontational. They're not afraid to speak up for themselves. They're not afraid to stand on business. They're not afraid to get in your face and say what they need to say. And I feel like this goes back to that Martian energy, that fiery rulership that they have if they are sidereal Aries. They have this personality where they are aggressive. They're not afraid to take on conflict. They're not afraid to be in some sort of disagreement with someone, say their opinion and have people disagree with them. They are firm and straightforward with their words, which I think really aligns with that Aries archetype, Martian energy. If they're going to say something, they're going to say it brashly, straightforwardly. They're not scared of people. They are fearless people, which that archetype of bravery is tied to Mars, is tied to the Aries archetype. So we see a lot of Taurus, tropical Taurus, being brave, fearless, talking smack, not being afraid to like go head to head with someone, which reminds me of like the ram symbolism of Aries. And another thing too here we can see is that they are leadership oriented. They are bossy. They're not afraid to be a boss. A lot of people who own businesses, start their own companies, have sidereal Aries in their big three. And in order to start something, initiate something, and lead people, you need to have those traits of being confrontational and being firm and being ready to take on conflict. Something else we can see in the lives of sidereal Aries is that they are known to want revenge. They want their lick back. They aren't afraid to go toe to toe with someone, but also if that argument drags out over time, they're the ones that are going to be like, okay, we can take it as far as you want, we can go as long as you want. They want to win and be dominant over their opponent, so they'll go very far lengths to do so. And with their ruling planet being Mars, that has a strong connection to stamina. So they have this stamina when it comes to conflict and going head to head with someone and having conflict drag out for years. It's like they're going to go head to head because they know they have that confidence of being able to know that they can win an argument, win a battle. And again, going back to that fearless, brave sort of archetype of Aries. And not to mention, they have their sun exalted. Sun exalts in Aries. So if you're a tropical Taurus, you'll notice that you can align with that sun exaltation in Aries, where that means you're confident, you're straightforward, there's no sense of confusion with your identity or who you are. You're just like, I am who I am, I said what I said, period. There's not that sense of struggle with identity where we see that with debilitated sun placements. But if your sun's exalted, you're somebody who's confident, boisterous, loud, you're a leader. So you see all those positive traits of solar energy. Now, in terms of their physical appearance, they look very strong. They look healthy. A lot of Sidereal Aries are athletic. They look athletic. They can build muscle. They like to build muscle. They have squarish features. So like their jawline could be square looking, or their nose shape, or their forehead is more angular. And that goes back to that Martian energy that is lean, muscular, angular, masculine looking. So a lot of you guys can watch the physical appearance video on my channel. You can watch it now if you are realizing you're a Sidereal Aries. Watch that video for Aries and see if you feel like you look like an Aries when you look in the mirror. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. Now, if you are a tropical Gemini, it is common that you'll switch to Sidereal Taurus when you switch systems. So what this means in your personality, how you act, is that a lot of you guys are the connoisseur of something. You have specialized knowledge, especially in things when it comes to the material world and things that please our senses. You'll see that a lot of Sidereal Taurus are really interested in perfume. They're perfumist. You like scents, collecting them, having them. You have a good nose when it comes to knowing what scents go where, what is your favorite scents. And that goes back to that Venusian rulership that you have. Venus wants to indulge in the material world, which is a common theme you see in the personality and characteristics of Sidereal Taurus, aka Geminis, is they love indulging in perfume, in food. They could be foodies. They know a lot about different snacks and tastes, and they have this demeanor where they like to touch things. They like to smell things. Does this smell good? Does this look good? They love trinkets. They love having collections of things. And I've known a lot of Sidereal Taurus where they have collections of perfumes, collections of candles, collections of a specific sort of toy or cards. And this is what I mean when I say you guys are connoisseurs. It's like you love collecting things, having these untouched collections of your favorite things that are pleasing to your senses that you really enjoy. And we can't forget that Taurus is the second sign of the zodiac. So Taurus is still the baby of the zodiac, and a lot of Sidereal Taurus act this way. They can act a little bit childish, and it kind of goes to this theme we're talking about of wanting to touch things, use our five senses, which is represented with the sign of Taurus. It's about discovering, okay, now I'm a human in the world. You're no longer a baby like with Aries, but with Taurus, now you're like a toddler, and toddlers touch everything. They want to taste things and talk a lot and collect things. And the sign of Taurus is also linked to the second house in our charts, and the second house represents our voice and speech. So that's a key cornerstone theme with the stereotype we see with tropical Geminis, is that they talk a lot. They're always having conversations, giving their opinions, they're yapping a lot. But we can draw that to Sidereal Taurus with the second house ruling speech, and Taurus ruling this theme of using your voice for something. Again, going back to that archetype cosmically of it being the sort of toddler stage of things. So a toddler is always yelling, saying words. You don't know what they're saying, but they're saying something for sure. And that is, I think, what that Sidereal Taurus archetype is more so related to, but we see it with the stereotype of Geminis talking a lot. But Taurus are the ones that like to use their voice and use their voice in different ways, and Sidereal Taurus have usually some sort of gift with speech, singing. They could just have a smooth voice, a nice speaking voice, a persuasive voice. They could just like using their voice in different ways and not being afraid to vocalize things a lot of the time. A lot of time, if you're a Sidereal Taurus, you could have been spoiled as a child. You could have had a lot of options as a child. You had a lot of things to wear. Your parents always gave you different toys, different foods to eat. And this is that theme of having this strong connection to interacting with the material world and having interest in fashion and things that you can touch. So perfume and candles, like we were talking about earlier. And it could go back to when you were a child, kind of being interested in a lot of different things or being spoiled sometimes and being consumed with the material world from a young age. This theme with you guys of being really engaged with the material world goes to this Venetian rulership that you have in sidereal astrology, where Venus is all about these things that pleasure us. So a lot of you guys are good at fashion, you're good at makeup, you're good at doing hair, you collect perfumes, you love candles. So all of those Venetian elements are very involved in the lives of Sidereal Taurus. Even though they're considered Geminis by a lot of people, or you identify as a Gemini, you have this strong, undeniable connection to Venus with your characteristics and your traits. Now for physical appearance, a lot of you guys look strong and healthy like a bull. You might have bull-like features, so like strong jawline or strong facial structure. But something I've noticed personally with you guys is that you have very thick hair. For men, you have like a really thick beard. And as we know, most men, or a lot of men, not everyone can grow a really thick beard. But if someone has a really thick, strong beard, I'll look at them and be like, that's a Sidereal Taurus, because they have like these really thick, strong beards. For women, they have thick, long, dark hair. Again, it's tying back to Venus here. So you guys are beautiful and you look naturally beautiful without a lot of enhancements. It's like you just show up and you're pretty. You wake up and you're pretty. And you guys can watch the physical appearance video on my channel. I really recommend that. For Taurus instead of Gemini, if you guys are switching signs, and you can see if you look like a Taurus or have the physical traits that align with a Taurus more than Gemini. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. If you are a Cancer in tropical astrology, it's likely that you switch to being a Gemini in the sidereal system. And what this looks like as a sidereal Gemini being ruled by Mercury, it means that you're somebody who's persuasive with your speech. You're good at writing, you're good at communication. In fact, it's likely that it's your hobby or passion or something that you do with your career that is mercurial, where you're using your voice, you're using your words. A lot of famous songwriters, singers, musicians have sidereal Gemini in their big three. So when we look at who's famous today, when we look at influential singers, influential rappers, it's like they have sidereal Gemini in their chart, although it might be considered Cancer in the mainstream, tropical Cancer, but they have this influence of Mercury working through them very powerfully when it comes to using words through lyrics, through songs, and having those songs be very influential on the modern world really ties back to this key ruling planet of Mercury. And a lot of you guys are good with words to the point where your words really hurt. You have a sharp tongue. You have the ability to clap back, to cuss someone out, to use your words in a harsh or violent way. But the thing is, those impact of those words that you guys have tend to be something that lasts a long time in people's minds. So if you give an insult to someone, if you do cuss someone out, it's something that the other person remembers for a long time. Like we talked about earlier with these musicians that have sidereal Gemini, their songs last forever. You always remember a certain song that a sidereal Gemini has. Just like in real life, a sidereal Gemini might say something to you that is a compliment, that is nice, that is friendly. You never forget their compliment. Out of all the compliments you got, you'll always remember, like, that sidereal Gemini said something to me. I can't forget it. And on the negative side of things, if they say something negative to you, or you guys have an exchange of words that's negative, you never forget that argument. And the other aspect you can see manifesting with Cancers in that they're sidereal Geminis is that they are very moody. And in the cosmic landscape of the zodiacal wheel, the third sign is Gemini. It's still kind of like that babyish state. Aries is like the baby, Taurus is like the toddler, and then Gemini is like this little kid. And so they have this demeanor and behavior where they can switch their moods really quickly. They can go from hysterically laughing to hysterically crying to being really sad about something, then being really happy. And I think the stereotype we see with Cancers is that they cry a lot. But it's not just crying, honestly, with Sidereal Geminis. It's like, they'll cry for sure, definitely, but then they're going to switch to laughing, then they're going to be mad, and then they're going to be happy, and then they're going to want to be mad at you, and then make up with you, and then you see these extreme emotions and oscillation with emotions with Gemini, and makes sense because it is the sign of duality. It is the two-faced sign. So I think that's what we're seeing more manifest with Sidereal Geminis, is that they're just back and forth emotionally a lot of the time because they have that temperament that is a little bit more childish because they are young in the zodiacal wheel. And then we can see a lot of good actors have Sidereal Gemini because you need that ability to change your personality on a dime, cry on a dime, laugh on a dime, and have that be believable to the masses and an audience if you're playing a character in a movie. And I think a lot of Sidereal Geminis are good actors because of that. And something else we can see too in their love lives is, this is a personal observation that I've noticed with Sidereal Geminis, is that they kind of always need to be in a relationship. They always have a partner. If they're not in a relationship, they're never really single for that long, which I don't bring that up to be like a bad thing or anything. It's just like something I've personally noticed with Sidereal Geminis. And I think it has to do with the fact that Gemini is the archetype of the twin. So you guys need your other half. Sidereal Geminis need that person beside them that's like their bestie, whether it be in a relationship or not, they have their other half with them. You can feel like they need that emotionally, psychologically. I just see it so many times with Sidereal Geminis. It's like they need their other half in their life. They need their twin, metaphorically or literally. And with their physical appearance, a lot of you guys, Sidereal Geminis, look baby-faced. You look younger than you are, and especially as you get into older ages, like 50s, 60s, a lot of people that are Sidereal Geminis look so young their entire lives. And that goes to this element we've been talking about of Mercury and the kind of childish features that Gemini gives a person. So you guys have this look to you that is childlike or dainty, petite. You look kind of adorable. You have youthful features throughout your whole life. And you guys can watch the physical appearance video on my channel for the Gemini timestamp to see if you resonate with the Gemini traits and features physically more than the physical features of a Cancer. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. So now for tropical Leos, a lot of you guys switch to being Cancers in the sidereal system. So if you are a sidereal Cancer, this means in your personality and your characteristics, you align with these traits that are more Cancerian, that are ruled by the moon. And sidereal Cancers oftentimes are very sensitive. They are moody. You resonate with this energy of being able to kind of hide yourself more than be exposing yourself, which I think we can talk about with the stereotype of Leo, is that they're extroverted, they're always in the center of things, or putting themselves out there and being an extrovert. But a lot of times they are more introverted. They're withholding with their energy, which is that symbolism of the crab, of Cancer. It's like they want to be more protective with their energy. They want to be more withdrawn. And a lot of the time, sidereal Cancers are very private people. They don't reveal a lot about themselves. They don't reveal a lot about their lives, but they do give illusions to the public, which the moon does represent illusions. So with sidereal Cancers, it's like they're able to give this illusion of being extroverted, this illusion of being in the spotlight and being popular and being well known, which they really could be genuinely, but a lot of times they have this secret inner life that people don't know about. They go home and have a whole lifestyle that no one knows about, that is their safe and secret space, which goes to that sidereal Cancer archetype. And Cancer in general is all about this sense of safety and security, and a lot of sidereal Cancers pride themselves in that and hold a lot of space for being able to be protective with their privacy, be private people, and be in this safe space that a lot of people don't know about. If we think about the literal moon, we see the moon only a fraction of the time, and when we do see it, we're in awe of it, we're admiring it, which is kind of like the reputation that Leos have, is that they are, you know, on the spotlight, in the spotlight, on stage. But what happens when they get off the stage? What happens behind the closed curtains? And when we do see the moon, it looks beautiful, big, glowing. It's such a magnificent thing to see when it is appearing, but it's not appearing often. The full moon doesn't happen often. And we don't really know, like, what is the moon doing right now? We don't know because we don't see it. It's usually daytime. And so Leos are kind of like that in the same way, where they are sidereal cancers, where it's like you see them when you see them, and they look beautiful and they look magnificent and they're glowing and they have this aura about them, but when they go away, you really don't know what they do after that. The moon is also a luminary. So this luminary energy is still seen with sidereal cancers, where it's like they are someone who is popular or famous, but I would more so connected to the fact that they last a long time in people's memories. There's something about sidereal cancers, you guys, if you're watching this, you are unforgettable to people. You're well known to people, but it's not like you're constantly in their face or constantly putting yourself out there. That goes with that tropical Leo stereotype, but it's more so you put yourself out there a few good times, people don't forget it. Just like the moon, it's not always up in the sky, we can't always see it, it's usually daytime, etc. But we don't forget the moon. We never forget certain full moons that happened. Or I can't forget when there was like a pink moon and we saw the moon and it was so close to my house. And like you have this unforgettable energy within you and that you embody because of this lunar rulership that you have in your sidereal chart. So a lot of you guys are homebodies, you're private, you are very intertwined with spirituality, which goes to that lunar rulership, and you're all about your home life. And it is a common theme in your life that you end up being a mother, literally. But we can often see in your life theme that you are responsible for taking care of someone else, whether that be literally with your own children, but also maybe you have an audience that's like taking care of children. You have to take care of people in your family. You become the sole breadwinner in your family for some reason. Maybe you gain some sort of status or fame, and then people rely on you and your family for money, protection, care. So you ultimately, usually within some point in your life, end up being in this motherly like role, Cancer, and learning this lesson that you have to take care of other people, be protective of other people. You naturally have this trait that you embody where you are able to protect people and give guidance and take care of them and embody that divine motherly archetype. You guys are really big on privacy, big on home. I've seen so many sidereal cancers not even like showing their home. If they're like an influencer that's like a sidereal Cancer, they're not showing you their house. They're not showing you their bedroom. They're not showing you floor, what do they call it? Like room tours or house tours. Like sidereal cancers will not do something like that because they have this really protective energy about themselves, which all goes back to Cancer and the sidereal Cancer archetype that they have, and the crab being this hard shell, but inside they're very sensitive. So they're really sensitive about their private space, their private life. They don't show a lot of it, although you might seem like you know them well or know their life, but you really don't when you think about it, because it's all about this theme of illusions and putting on an illusion so they can have their private life to themselves and people not be too invested in that. Now, as for their physical appearance, a lot of sidereal cancers can be quite pale or have a pale undertone with their skin, neutral undertone, cool tones. They have thick, dark hair. That's a common theme with the moon. Moon can be attached to that physical trait of thick dark hair, specifically like dark hair, not blonde or any other color, but like just dark hair. So a lot of Leos have thick dark hair. They're pale looking, might have a neutral skin tone, neutral undertone, cool tones. Where the stereotype might be more warm, you can actually see a lot of sidereal cancers that are Leos have more of a cooler undertone actually, or thick dark hair that's brown and have that lunar look to them. And the moon also bestows beauty. So we see that with sidereal cancers, they have this feminine beauty to them. Smooth skin, pleasant features, they look very nice to look at, just like the moon in real life. When you see the moon, it looks beautiful, looks bomb. So a lot of sidereal cancers have that same sort of energy and theme in their lives where they look beautiful and they look awe-inspiring and magnetic and glowy. They're embodying this lunar energy that gives beauty and a soft feminine sort of beauty with sidereal Cancer. Now, another thing too is that they are naturally seductive. Again, with lunar energy, the moon seduces through illusions. So they have this ability to hypnotize people, this ability to be seductive and alluring. And maybe the natives themselves might think, hey, I'm not that conventionally attractive, but they do have this seductive quality inevitably about them that can be tied back to lunar energy. And I recommend you guys watch the physical appearance video on my channel for the Cancer timestamp instead of the Leo one, and see if you relate to any of those traits that Cancers typically have. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. If you are a tropical Virgo, it's likely that you switch to being a Leo in the sidereal system. you see these solar traits being manifested in your personality. You're somebody who is creative, bold, you're a leader. And a lot of Virgos, tropical Virgos, have this domineering sort of energy. They want to be bossy, they want to be in control, they like leading things, they're boisterous, entertaining. And this entertaining quality draws back to this archetype of Leo that a lot of them have, Sidereal Leo, where they like to entertain, they like to make people laugh, they could be the class clown, which you really wouldn't think of with Virgo energy, but it's because they have like that energy within them subconsciously that is connected to the Leo archetype. Then Leo also draws back to that archetype of fame, of notoriety, being popular, and a lot of famous people have Sidereal Leo in their chart. Some of the most famous people that we know, like Zendaya, Beyonce, Michael Jackson, have Sidereal Leo sun, and we could see this solar energy being radiant in their lives and personalities, and in their lifestyles. They like to participate in creative things, creative arts. They love acting, being involved in fashion, anything involved where they are put on display, where they're showing themselves to the world, showing their creativity to the world. That is common in the lives of a lot of tropical Virgos, where you see their Sidereal Leo coming out of being creative, being theatrical, being dramatic, and loving those sort of things in terms of creative hobbies and careers. With the stereotype of tropical Virgos, it's seen that they're picky, that they are perfectionist. And I feel like this goes back to this theme of solar energy, of the sun. It's about being self-aware, self-centered. So you see a lot of Virgos being self-aware, being self-centered in the sense of being picky about their appearance, being a perfectionist about what they look like, about what they do in their art and in their creative hobbies and things that they publish. So you can see that in the lives of Sidereal Leos before they publish something to the world, drop a video, drop their art for everyone to see. They review it a million times. They're a perfectionist with their craft, with what they're doing, and even sometimes they turn that mirror to themselves because they are solar and sun ruled. So we see the stereotype of them being perfectionists and analyzing themselves a lot, but it goes back to that solar energy where they're focused on developing themselves, developing their identity, and developing their creativity thoroughly and to the point that is meeting their standards. And you can also see a lot of Virgos in the industry or realm of self-help, self-care. They're all about being this guru, someone that helps someone else develop themselves, develop self-awareness. Sidereal Leos have this life theme where they have to develop their identity. They have to develop their own sense of originality and creativity. And you can see that as they age and get into older age, especially like maybe 50s or like 40s, they finally develop themselves the way they want to be developed. They finally go through this journey of self-transformation to be in the point they want to be in. So sometimes it takes a little bit longer, or it takes a lifetime to develop who you are, but that theme of identity is strong in the lives of tropical Virgos. They have this energy about them that they're good at leading people, good at inspiring people. You meet a Sidereal Leo, suddenly you're just like, hey, I should follow you. I should submit to you, what you're doing. I like your vibe. I like your style. They have a strong sense of originality and identity. So people naturally submit to that and want to follow that. So hence why you see a lot of Sidereal Leos being very famous, having a following. Some of them might not even try to cultivate a following or anything like that. People just naturally feel magnetized to their solar energy. And touching on this topic, we kind of talked about it earlier, but the sun is dominant. It's masculine. It's representing leadership. So Sidereal Leos have the energy where they won't back down. They won't submit to other people. They could seem shy at first or be shy in childhood, but they grow to be this boisterous person, this leader, this person that is domineering, sometimes a little bit aggressive. Solar energy, having it be masculine, it is overbearing for some people. People close to them, the people they interact with, they can feel this sense of magnetism, this sense of overbearingness, sometimes the sense of them having really high standards, the sense of pressure of the sun. Being close to the sun, it burns. So that dynamic manifests a lot of the times in the lives of Sidereal Leos as just being too much for people, being too dramatic, being too overbearing, being too domineering, not willing to back down. You're the leader, you're the sun. Nobody has control over the sun because the sun is the king. So they go through those themes in their life and experience that dynamic amongst their peers, coworkers, etc., people that are closer to them. And staying on par with that theme of solar energy, they are competitive. You can see a lot of Sidereal Leos be in sports, be athletic. They have these strong or healthy bodies. They look strong, they are healthy, they love to work out, to practice some sort of physical activity. And in sports, they tend to dominate, be a high scorer, be someone who's great at their sport, like football or basketball. They have great athleticism as well. And then something about them too that I've noticed is that they can be really sassy. They can have a clap back. Again, I think it draws back to this theme where the sun is just not backing down. The sun is the king. Archetype of Leo being royalty, and with royalty, you know you're royal. You're not going to let people talk to you any sort of way. You're not going to let anyone tip your crown, knock you off your pedestal. So they're going to have that sassy clapback, sassy energy. With physical appearance, they do have thick hair. That is the Leo stereotype. Leo archetype is you're going to have thick hair like a lion. A lot of these Virgos that are Sidereal Leos do kind of align with that feline sort of look, with having thick hair, sharp features. And we talked about it a little bit earlier, but they have strong athletic bodies. They're healthy looking. They love taking care of themselves, all about self-care, all about looking good. I've noticed with these people that they love to go to spas. They love to get facials. They're always kind of tweaking their appearance, getting the best clothes, getting the best makeup, doing things that make them look the best. They're all about this theme of being and looking the best. So they invest a lot into hair and makeup and clothes. You're not going to see them looking shabby, okay? They're going to make themselves look great because at the end of the day, they're soul ruled. So it's all about making yourself look good, being the best, and shining the brightest on others around you. I recommend you guys can watch the physical appearance video on my channel. I'll link it down below, but watch it for the Leo timestamp and see if you relate to those Leo traits described in that video with your physical appearance. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. So if you are a Libra, this means that in the sidereal system, it's quite likely you switch to being a Virgo, which means you're ruled by Mercury. So you see these mercurial traits play out in the lives of sidereal Virgos, where you're somebody who's studious, neat, tidy. I've noticed that sidereal Virgos are very timely people. They love having their schedule, their calendar is mapped out for the whole month, their day is planned out minute by minute. And they have this strong adherence to having a schedule, having a timetable that they're on. They don't like being late. They love to be punctual. And that aligns with that classical Virgo archetype. Balance is the word we hear with Libra stereotypes, in that they are balanced people. They love to create balance, and this theme of balance is what follows that archetype. But I feel like it's connected to the sidereal archetype of Virgo being about problem solving and Mercury being about intelligence. So you can see with sidereal Virgos, they are very intelligent. They know how to think about solutions to problems. They know how to problem solve. And a lot of times that is how balance is obtained, by fixing problems, finding the solution. And being this solution-oriented person is kind of conflated with that theme of being a balanced person. And I think too with Mercury, it is a neutral planet. So that neuter energy is seen with sidereal Virgos, where they like to be neutral with things. They don't like to pick a side, or they can see both sides adequately. They can be indecisive because Mercury has that same finicky nature where they can't decide on what to do or what to say or what to choose. They can offer a solution or solve a problem, which does remind us of the theme of balance, but they can be in this fickle space a lot of the time of being indecisive, not choosing anything, but being neutral, because that goes back to that mercurial rulership. Another thing too we see with the Libra stereotype is that they're charming, that they're polite and diplomatic, and I feel like that goes with that Mercury energy of being good at conversations, being great with words. A lot of famous writers, songwriters, poets have sidereal Virgo in their chart, strong in their big three. And it's because they have that Mercury energy working through them, where they're able to write things out thoroughly, be thorough with their thoughts, be very articulate with their words. And that is that perfectionist energy that is so prevalent with Virgo, is that they want to be precise, they want to be exact, they want to be direct with what they're saying. in terms of refining their speech, refining what they're writing, and being articulate and thorough verbally. So I think when you interact with them, have conversations with them, you're experiencing that energy of a mercurial person who's good with speech, who's good at talking and very good with manipulating their words, manipulating ideas or concepts, being able to manipulate the thoughts of someone else through persuasive speech is a skill and talent I see with so many sidereal Virgos. So these people are very intelligent, emotionally intelligent, socially intelligent. They're really great at school. I think a lot of people I went to school with who were sidereal Virgos had really good grades, worked really hard, which is another thing with Virgo is hard work and putting in effort. So they put a lot of effort into their academic career, into obtaining certain degrees, obtaining the status they want academically. And one thing I always see with sidereal Virgos, I observed this, and this is so common that I'm just like, okay, you guys are Virgos, you're not a Libra, you're a Virgo, is the fact that they're really great with their hands. They usually have one talent or a couple talents that reveal this craftsmanship they have with creating something with their hands, with doing something that involves their hands, since Mercury rules hands. And for example, they're really great at guitar, piano, they're great at being a DJ, they're great at crafting things like pottery or sewing. They have excellent craftsmanship with their hands and being able to create things that require patience, require being thorough, and require being a perfectionist. They have this demeanor that is humble or passive. A lot of them can be really quiet, really shy, where the Libra stereotype might be that they're like these charismatic socialites. From what I've seen, sidereal Virgos aren't necessarily aligning with that Libra stereotype, where they're more shy in social situations, they're really quiet, they're not speaking out, where they are good at speaking and having conversations once you really get to know them, but they're not necessarily in that socialite archetype that you see with Libra. And there's someone that is supportive of others, helpful with others. They'd rather help their friends or support their friends than be in the spotlight all the time. And as for their appearance, sidereal Virgos tend to be slim, slender, petite. They have this dainty or delicate look about them. And again, going back to this theme of hands with Mercury, they can have really delicate wrists, small fingers. They can have a really small ring size, for example. But they have this kind of dainty sort of bone structure and delicate look about them that goes back to that mercurial energy. They could also look younger than they are. So they tend to be thorough with their appearance. They look clean, neat, tidy, everything in order. A lot of the times they wear glasses, they look studious. So even physically, they look very Virgo-like, even though they might be tropical Libras. And I recommend for you guys to watch the physical appearance video on my channel, but this time watch it for your Virgo timestamp instead of Libra to see if you align with these Virgo physical traits from that video. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. Now, if you're a tropical Scorpio, this means that it's quite likely you switch to being a sidereal Libra in the sidereal system, meaning you're now ruled by Venus. And you see this Venusian energy play out with tropical Scorpios, with that they're very relationship oriented. They oftentimes are in a romantic relationship or have romantic options, since Libra is a sign about socializing and having connections with other people. That goes back to that Venusian energy. So you'll see that a lot of sidereal Libras are popular. They know a lot of people. Even if it isn't traditional fame, they have connections in a lot of different places. They maintain their connections throughout school, throughout places they work. They know a lot of different people from a lot of walks of life, and their contact list has a lot of different people in it. That stereotype we see with Scorpio about them being obsessive is usually directed more towards relationships. You see that sidereal Libras will be obsessed with people, obsessed with their spouse, and in the furthest extent, be someone who like stalks someone else, is obsessed to the point where they're just consumed with someone else in a romantic sense. which I feel goes back to this Venetian energy, this Libra archetype of partnerships, wanting to have that ideal partnership, wanting to have your ideal partner, even if it means you're obsessed with someone and having obsessive tendencies in romantic dynamics. With Scorpio, there's that stereotype that they are secretive and mysterious and into taboo topics, which can be true, but I think a lot of the times once you get to know Scorpios that are sidereal Libras, they're really funny, they are charming, they have a lot of jokes, they're really childish at heart. They can be these really charismatic people. Venetian energy of being charming, of being diplomatic and likable. A lot of them are more likable once you get to know them, and they kind of align more with that Libra energy. I think once you have a conversation or multiple conversations with a sidereal Libra, is that they are someone who is pleasant, they love to engage in conversation, they love material things, they can be very glamorous people, which I think definitely flies under the radar with them being sidereal Libras and being considered Scorpios in tropical astrology, is that they love fashion, they love creating things. A lot of them could be fashion designers. They love design, they love fashion, they're really creative naturally, which draws back to that Venetian energy. And they love living a lifestyle where they are comfortable, where they're experiencing beautiful things. They like traveling, they love pleasant experiences, engaging in pleasure and doing enjoyable things. And a lot of the times this is preferred, that they want to do that with a spouse, with their ideal partner. And that Venetian element manifests in their lives where they do find their spouse or the person they want to be with. A lot of times they are in a relationship and not single for long. And in their relationships, they love doing these Venetian things of, shopping, engaging in their hobbies, doing anything related to fashion or cooking, creation, and even creating things and having creative projects with their spouse. They're great at negotiation, doing business deals. There's a lot of business people or lawyers that have sidereal Libra in their chart because they're good at weighing out the facts. They're good at arguing, making a point without coming across aggressive or too assertive. They're great at having this neutral and balanced tempo with their speech, with how they communicate, that appeals to other people. So people can listen to them and understand what they're saying and hear their side of things without having a strong reaction, because they don't have that sense of aggressiveness within themselves. They tend to be elegant, polite, and appeal to people when it comes to their words, how they speak, and they're naturally very articulate and great at negotiating and being balanced in that way. And they tend to be quite beautiful. They are people that have balanced features, great skin. They have a look about them that is very distinctive, and you have a memorable looking face, memorable looking aesthetic and aura. And I think that gets lost in the tropical stereotypes of Scorpio, where that's not the first thing or first description they say about Scorpio is beauty. But if you look at most sidereal Libras that are Scorpios in the tropical system, they're really beautiful, really good looking. A lot of models, actors, people that are known to be great looking have that in their big three. And I just want to emphasize the fact that they're so elegant and poised. That's something I never hear being talked about with Scorpios, but it's like once you get to know a sidereal Libra that is a Scorpio, personally, they have this elegance about them, this sense of glamour, wanting to engage in glamour, glamorous appearance. They have great taste in food and wine. They are cultured individuals. And you can see in their lifestyle and things that they've done and been through is that they've traveled a lot, seen different cultures, they know different cuisines, and this cultured, glamorous energy that they have embodied is tied back to their Venetian rulership. So I suggest some of you guys want to watch the physical appearance video on my channel based on the zodiac signs. Watch that for the Libra timestamp instead of Scorpio timestamp, and you can see how that has switched in the systems and if you relate to the physical appearance of being a Libra more so than Scorpio. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. Now, if you are a Sagittarius in the tropical system, it's likely that you switch to being a Scorpio in the sidereal system, meaning that you go to being ruled by Mars, which rules Scorpio. So we can see this in the personalities of Sidereal Scorpios, is that you guys are ambitious. You're goal-oriented, you're hardworking, you're always in pursuit of a goal that you have. And I feel like that's really tied to that Martian energy. Mars being representative of a soldier, somebody that's active, somebody that wants to achieve something, and that is the energy that a lot of Sagittarius embody. And one of the buzzwords we hear in the stereotypes of Sagittarius is that they are blunt, which is true, but I think that's tied more to a lot of Sagittarius being Sidereal Scorpios, and Martian energy, Mars, is blunt, it's straightforward, it is ruthless. Not only are they blunt, but they can be harsh with their words. They can say things that are harmful, say things that will hurt someone else's feelings, and be really sharp and cutthroat because they have that sharp masculine energy of Mars ruling their sign. Scorpio is a sign that represents power, and this is something a lot of Sidereal Scorpios strive for. You see this in their personality, how they act, and they want a powerful position in life. They want to achieve something greater than what they started with. These dramatic ups and downs are seen in Sidereal Scorpios' lives. These dramatic transformations, going from one status to another status, being involved in one lifestyle, then another. They go through a lot in one lifetime, which I do think gets swept under the rug, since when we're talking about Sagittarius, we're like, oh, they're funny, they're blunt, they're charismatic, but we're not talking about what goes on underneath the surface and what they've really gone through in their life. And if you know a Sidereal Scorpio personally that's a Sagittarius, they've gone through some really tough things, things that involve trauma, death, abuse, like all of these things that you wouldn't really think when you just think about Sagittarius being funny or blunt. It's kind of said that people that go through a lot of stuff can be funny about it, can make jokes about it. I will make jokes about something they went through that was harsh or traumatic, but kind of make it into something to laugh about or converse about, and they can be funny about it, but they really do go through some challenging things in their life that go back to that transformational archetype that is held within Scorpio. Some keywords we see with the Scorpio archetype is power, control, dominance. So in the personalities of Sidereal Scorpios, they want some sort of power, they want dominance, they are good at being in a battle. So they have some sort of opponent they want to defeat. They're very competitive people, which really goes back to that Martian energy, that Scorpio energy, wanting to dominate, wanting to win, wanting to be competitive. There's a lot of athletes that have Sidereal Scorpio, and even Michael Jordan has Sidereal Scorpio moon, I believe. And you saw that if you guys watched The Last Dance, he was really competitive, ruthless. He was like, I'm going to win no matter what. And a lot of Sidereal Scorpios have that mentality of wanting to win, wanting to dominate, be ruthless with their path in doing so. And they're really brave. They're not afraid to have confrontation. They're not afraid to have battles. In fact, sometimes they might even invite it to themselves and encourage people like, yeah, step to me, see what happens. And that aggressive and blunt energy is drawn back to that Scorpio Martian archetypes. So this theme of self-reliance, relying on their own abilities, being independent with what they do is strong within them and in their personalities. They want to have their own thing going on, their own independence, especially financially, because earlier in their lives, one of the situations they could have gone through is being powerless, not having dominance, not being the winner, winning competitions. So they kind of go through this tumultuous journey to like become that person, to become the person who's always winning, to achieve dominance over people, and achieve power if they didn't have that when they were younger. And at the heart of their personalities, they want to be remembered as being a winner, being in that top spot. This is a journey they go on throughout their lives, energetically. It's part of their life purpose to be someone who fights for what they have, to be in a throne, but a lot of times having to fight for that top spot, be competitive, battle who you need to battle, and they go through all of these transformations in order to obtain a lot later in life, obtain wealth or status, but only through hard work and effort and self-reliance that you see with Martian energy and also with Scorpio energy. When it comes to physical appearance, they are athletic looking, they're tall, they're strong, they're good at bodybuilding, putting on muscle. They have athletic talents. They're great at doing athletic things. Even if they don't do that professionally or as a hobby, they could just pick up a ball and be great at basketball, pick up a soccer ball, be great at soccer. They're great at doing anything athletic, exercising, which goes back to that Martian energy. They have strong features. masculine features. And a lot of times I notice they have this sharpish look about them, which I think goes back to their ruling animal, which is the scorpion. So scorpion is known to be venomous and sharp and have a tough exterior. So a lot of Sagittarius kind of look like that, not like a scorpion, but they kind of have those same keywords that you would think about with the scorpion, like someone who's like sharp looking, alluring. Scorpions are kind of scary and intimidating, but at the same time, it's a really beautiful animal or arachnid or whatever it is. You want to look at a scorpion, it looks cool, the symbolism is cool, but it is known to be something that is intimidating. And I think a lot of sidereal Scorpios embody that energy of being intimidating or looking intimidating, looking kind of scary, having a sharp look or RBF. And if you guys want to watch the physical appearance video on my channel, I recommend watching it for the Scorpio timestamp instead of Sagittarius timestamp, and you guys can see if you resonate more with Scorpio traits or Sagittarius. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. Now, if you're a Capricorn, this means that it's likely you are a sidereal Sagittarius when you switch systems, meaning that you're ruled by Jupiter in the sidereal system, whereas you're ruled by Saturn in the tropical system. But we can see with this shift of energy of you being ruled by Jupiter that you're in this space a lot of the time of thinking about your future, having a vision for the future, and that's what Jupiter is tied to, this theme of being a visionary, seeing beyond your present, current reality, and seeing the bigger picture. And I think a lot of sidereal Sagittarius are great at that because they are ruled by Jupiter, and subconsciously they have this Jupiterian energy of being optimistic, being expansive, where the tropical Capricorn stereotype is that they're ambitious and goal-oriented, but we can tie it to their Jupiter rulership on a subconscious level. And the Capricorn stereotype with Saturn rulership, Saturn can be all about being kind of pessimistic and not being optimistic. But if you know sidereal Sagittarius personally, they are optimistic people. They're always thinking about the best outcomes. A lot of them are passionate about manifestation, passionate about spirituality, which are things that are ruled by Jupiter. So they have this energy about them that can seem Capricorn-like with the ambitiousness and seriousness, but it's really more so about this sense of expansiveness. And they are passionate specifically about having a name for themselves, having a legacy for themselves that matters, and establishing themselves in the world. And an interesting fact about Jupiter is that it represents society. And I've seen in the lives of sidereal Sagittarius that they care about having some sort of position in society, having a strong position, having an influential position. They seek to rise up out of whatever they were born with status-wise. They have this strong belief in themselves to make their life as they truly desire it and make their dreams a reality. They have this royal demeanor. They have this demeanor that is noble, righteous, which is that Jupiterian energy coming out of being in a position of being ethical, being righteous, aligning with their purpose, aligning with what they find ethical, and seeming like that to the world. And Jupiter, Sagittarius, is tied to the 9th house in our charts. And the 9th house represents this theme of status, of royalty. It's one of the highest houses in the chart. So with this 9th house emphasis, I think that's something that a lot of sidereal Sagittarius strive for, is having status in life, having their own version of royalty, whatever that means for them. And a lot of them can be preachy as well, which is a Jupiter thing, Sagittarius. They're passionate about religion, for example, or their spiritual beliefs, and they have these really strong and rigid belief systems that they don't mind sharing with. But it is a common theme that they are teachers, that they're preachers, or somebody that gives knowledge, somebody that advises other people. They are in this position to give guidance to people, which is also tied to the 9th house of being a guide, a guru. You can find so many sidereal Sagittarius in those positions in their lifestyles. Even though they are seen as Capricorns, and some of the buzzwords we hear with Capricorns is that they're classy and sophisticated, I feel like this aligns with that energy of Jupiter, wanting to be noble, wanting to be honorable, seen in an elevated position. And that is tied to the 9th house too, where that is an elevated position in our charts. So elevated positions is where you find yourself a lot of the time in your life purpose and your life themes is like you're striving for this elevated position in your life if you're a Sidereal Sagittarius, and people see them in this light of being honorable, distinguished, ethical, and having this classy energy to them that I feel like is more tied to Jupiter energy and ninth house energy in the Sagittarius archetype. In your physical appearance, we can see that you have great posture, you have a regal demeanor, and with great posture comes a respectable aura. People respect people who have great posture, great enunciation, articulation. They project their words, and I feel like a lot of Sidereal Sagittarius embody that. And something you guys embody too is that you're very worldly, cultured, well-traveled. You're somebody who wants to experience a lot of different things in life. You want to learn different languages, go to different countries, all for the purpose of being worldly, of expanding your horizons, which goes back to that Jupiterian theme of expansion. So that is a key we can see in your personality and your lifestyle. It's like you want to expand beyond where you are right now, expand beyond your birth status, where you were born at. You usually end up achieving a lot in life and achieving your goals and becoming bigger and more elevated than where you started. And also thinking very highly of yourself, being someone who's self-confident, being someone who strongly believes in themselves, believes in your faith, believes in your religion, and a sense of purpose and higher purpose is tied to the ninth house. So we see the ninth house energy playing instrumental parts in your personality when it comes to how you achieve things, how you think, how you adapt and approach life. It's like you want to align with the higher sense of purpose, your higher goals, and achieve a lot when it comes to elevating in life and expanding with that Jupiter energy at the core of your sidereal sign. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. So now for Aquarius, a lot of you guys are sidereal Capricorns when you switch systems, meaning that you become ruled by the planet of Saturn. And I believe you see these Saturnian themes in sidereal Capricorns be really relevant in how they act, their personality, their beliefs, and their lifestyle. A lot of Aquarius who are sidereal Capricorns are very logical. I think that's one of the traits and stereotypes we hear from tropical astrology, is that they are logical people, they are brainiacs, they're thinkers, geniuses, etc. And I believe that sense of logic comes from the Saturnian rulership. Now, Aquarius is ruled by Saturn, and Capricorn's also ruled by Saturn. So we have this same ruling planet here, but I think the shift that happens into them being sidereal Capricorns is that they are very strict with their ways of thinking, their rigid belief systems. There's that sense of unmovingness with Capricorn that is firm, stoic, and direct. And I think you see that in a lot of sidereal Capricorns who are Aquarius, where Aquarius is supposed to be an air sign, but a lot of times the way they express themselves or beliefs, how they behave is more earth sign like. And with this earth sign energy, you see that they are reliable and committed to their goals. That Saturnian rulership is still connected to this theme of achievement, being goal-oriented, and with Capricorn ruling the natural 10th house in our charts, the highest point in our charts that represents what we want to leave as a legacy or achieve, that is what consumes the minds of sidereal Capricorns, leaving their legacy, having a strong impact on the world, being oriented towards the future, thinking logically when it comes to their next steps in life, how they're going to achieve their goals in a logical way, in a precise way. There's this sense of perfectionism with the Capricorn archetype and wanting to achieve something and doing it in a way that is ethical, that is by the books, that is traditional. And that's something that gets swept under the rug a little bit with this transition from Aquarius to being Capricorns, is that they are traditional. And traditional with their belief systems, how they think, they believe in a traditional lifestyle, or their thoughts and beliefs about things can just be a traditional mentality, where in the tropical system, the stereotype is that Aquarius are weird and quirky and stuff. But honestly, when you get to know sidereal Capricorn, it's like they're more simple and straightforward and traditional, and less of that weird archetype we hear with Aquarius, but more of that Capricorn archetype, the Saturnian energy, being logical, rigid, and traditional. Something I see with them too is that they are very disciplined. They're going to achieve something in life and they're going to work hard to get it. Hard work is, of course, as we know, a Capricorn trait that is magnified with that archetype, and we see that with sidereal Capricorns. They are hardworking, they want to achieve something. A lot of times they want to achieve fame or status, which is a 10th house thing, and they do end up achieving that through hard work, even if it does take a long time. That theme of longevity is present here. So they want to achieve things, they'll take their time with it, they are patient, logical, determined, and really committed to this theme of achievement, but through effort, through hard work, which goes back to that Capricorn archetype. And I feel like that goes back to that image we can see with Capricorn being this stern, fatherly archetype. And sidereal Capricorns align with that energy of being monotone with their speech, stern with their speech. A lot of times they are argumentative, they have strong opinions, and they don't feel bad about having those opinions or feel bad about being argumentative. They said what they said, they'll say it out loud, they'll be stern about it and vocal about it if they feel it is right. And I think that goes back to that ethical energy with Saturn of wanting to do what is right, say the ethical thing, and they have a good sense of ethics and judgment of character. So they can judge people's character, they can judge situations accurately because they have a strong, grounded sense of logic with that Capricorn energy. And because of that, they can be judgmental, vocalize their judgments about things, about society, and have these really strong judgments that they can draw back to this grounded sense of being able to see things in a neutral perspective, in a perspective that is balanced. And the physical appearance and presentation of sidereal Capricorns tends to be simple or traditional. It doesn't have much flair to it. They love a good classic look, classic top with pants, classic blazer. They like to look professional, mature. They have this disciplined look with their appearance. They want to look, respectable and presentable to society. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below. Now for Pisces, you switch into being an Aquarius in the sidereal system. So being a sidereal Aquarius, you're ruled by Saturn. And this was the switch for me that made a lot of sense when you start looking at sidereal Aquarius as Aquarius rather than Pisces. Sidereal Aquarius, they tend to have eccentric personalities, this style that is unique and different and have a strong sense of originality about them. And I see a lot of the times they embody this otherworldliness. They can't be copied, they can't be imitated. They usually produce something into the world that has never been seen before. And that sense of invention is at the core of Aquarius. And the Aquarius archetype is known for being inventive, the genius, the person who does things differently. And I think that's true with a lot of tropical Pisces. That kind of gets overlooked with them just being Pisces in tropical astrology, is them being these inventive people that are very original. And if you look at a lot of celebrities and musicians, you find that their aesthetic and their branding and things that they've done has broken records, has been really important and influential to society, and important in the context of changing something, changing a pattern, being the pattern breaker is that Aquarius energy. And you've seen probably tropical Pisces do that sort of thing, but then you look at their chart and it switches to sidereal Aquarius. It makes a lot of sense. They would be this agent for change, this pattern breaker, this chaotic person that changes the narrative of a lot of traditional tropes in society. Pisces are mysterious and aloof and spiritual, but I think some words we can describe them as is strange, is weird, but in the way that is driving to this main key term of being unique. They are like something you've never seen before, a person you've never met before. They have this lasting impression on people because they are so different naturally. Tropical Pisces who are sidereal Aquarius are the real Aquarius because they're naturally weird, naturally someone who might not fit in, they're eccentric, they have these traits about them that aren't like the average person, whereas tropical Aquarius might think that they align with that or think they align with being weird, but they might be kind of forcing that weird persona, forcing that weird personality. But with Pisces, tropical Pisces, you guys don't really try to force the weirdness. You're like genuinely weird or genuinely eccentric. It's not something you're trying hard to cultivate or be like, oh, I'm unique, I'm different. But you're genuinely emanating that energy because you have sidereal Aquarius at the core of your chart. So Aquarius representing the collective, humanity, and the 11th house representing large groups, large networks. Sidereal Aquarius tend to have strong influence on large networks of people. They start movements. They start this push in society for society to change. We can see people who were like civil rights leaders with Sidereal Aquarius. They have this urge within them to change society in some way because it's going back to that 11th house energy of society, humanity, big groups, and having a big influence on society, humanity, and the masses at large. And even though they have influence on a lot of people or have that potential to have influence on society, Sidereal Aquarius tend to be very detached, which goes against that stereotype with Pisces that they're emotional or crybabies. A lot of them aren't necessarily aligned with that energetically or express that, but once they step into this energy and align with this sidereal energy of Aquarius, they're more detached. They see things logically. They see the bigger picture of things. They're thinking about their actions and how it affects society as a whole. They're thinking of how we can change society and this bigger scope of humanity. They're thinking of not just themselves or being emotional, but how is this ripple effect can happen and how this change can happen with them starting some sort of revolution or energetic shift in society based on their thoughts, words, or ideas. Saturn was Aquarius and represents this theme of delays. And in the lives of a lot of Pisces who are Sidereal Aquarius, they see this delay in life with success, or they might not achieve what they want right away. Not in their 20s or not even in their 30s. They achieve success later in life in a very mature state. This is the life path of someone where it takes a whole life to cultivate what their purpose is or express their gifts to the world. It takes them maybe a little longer than usual to develop socially, and they have this late bloomer syndrome. They spend a portion of their life being the underdog. People don't really notice them or give them credit for what they do, or they feel overlooked, but eventually they become the victor in their situation because they get out of that mentality of being like, oh, I'm overlooked, I'm the underdog, and realize that they have this power within them to influence society, and they have this deeper inner purpose, this Aquarius energy that is beyond the realm of normal society and traditional roles, but like, what is the bigger impact of what you can really do in life? And they develop that over time, and sometimes it's a little bit later because of that Saturnian rulership. They do get to that place of success, of personal success, and manifesting their purpose in the material world. And a lot of Pisces are geniuses. They're crazy smart. They will surprise you with what they know, with what they can do. And this goes back to this theme of sometimes them being underdogs, people not really listening to what they're saying, but eventually people catch on because they're so far in the future. With that Aquarius energy, they're seeing the future more clearly. They're visionaries. They have this clear path to what the future can look like or what it will be. A lot of them are intuitive and have these powerful downloads and psychic visions that society can't really understand at the moment that they express them, but eventually over time it's seen that people start paying attention to them, taking heed to what they're saying, and they're kind of like, wow, how did this person know that so far in the future? And no one can perceive what they're really saying or expressing sometimes because it's so ahead of its time that other people cannot understand it in the present day or present moment. They get into these positions of leadership and leadership within the realm of philanthropy, of charity. Again, it's all about this theme of giving back with this Aquarius energy. It's like, how can we make society better through our own actions? And again, a lot of Pisces might be interested in this field professionally or work in this field, eventually work for a charity or volunteer as it pertains to animals, and having social justice be a key theme in their life and their life purpose, what they do professionally, and wanting to make a better world overall. So through their efforts, through their beliefs, through this push that they have within them to change things, they end up changing things. They break the status quo, they break records, they have a huge influence on society's trends, on the direction of society, even if it's like they seem like a quiet person, they're not boisterous or very aggressive with what they're doing. It's like they have this silent power about them that I think with Pisces kind of gets swept under the rug. But once we looked into that Sidereal Aquarius archetype, we can very much see how these people are agents of change and end up influencing society in a major way, whether it be through philanthropy, charity, or just simply being themselves or inventing something new. So that brings us to the physical appearance of Pisces that are Sidereal Aquarius. A lot of them are really tall, have that eccentric look about them, like we've been talking about throughout this description. They can be eccentric with their personality, but also they're just kind of like someone you've never seen before. They have a unique look to them. They could be racially ambiguous with their gender, and you kind of look at them like, I've never really seen someone like this before. And I think that really goes to that Aquarius energy of being unique and different, and they look like that physically, and they can be really tall, which really aligns with that Aquarius archetype. And the current video up on Patreon is all about your future spouse, your husband, based on your Jupiter sign. So if you're curious about that information and what that looks like for you, I'll leave the link to that video down below.